So now let's create the database and create tables, orders, and order items, and then load data into tables. So for that, I'll be using Hive so that I can actually create database, tables, etc. And same things you can actually do it in Spark SQL also, if Spark SQL is available based upon the underlying distributions. Hortonworks, Mapper, etc. provides you Spark SQL, whereas Cloudera does not. Okay, but you can use Spark Shell or PySpark with underlying programming language to run Spark SQL queries. That being said, let's get uh, let's get further and start creating the databases, tables, etc. So the problem statement says create database with this convention, your user ID retail db underscore txt. The reason why I am specifying that is because I am demonstrating on my lab, and it is a multi-tenant environment. Just to avoid to step onto other stores, we are actually creating unique database by using our username underscore with the database as suffix name. Otherwise, in actual projects, we should not prefix uh, our names to any of the databases or tables. It's a very bad practice. That being said, creating database is very straightforward. Create database, and then dgadiraju is my username, retail underscore db underscore txt. Okay, and then every HiveQL command or SQL command which we run in Hive or Spark SQL have to end with semicolon. And the database is created. Now to switch to that new database, you have to say use dgadiraju retail underscore db underscore txt. And then it will switch to that database. If you want to list the tables, just say show tables. As of now, we haven't created any tables, so it is empty. Now let us understand what happens when we create database. You should be familiar with HDFS by now, and you might have seen commands such as Hadoop, fs, -ls, etc. From Linux terminal. But now we are in the Hive context, so Hadoop, fs-ls, and all will not work here. Instead, in Hive context, there is a command called dfs, which is alias for Hadoop fs, and then we can say -ls, and we can do whatever you want. In this environment, there is a parameter called Hive warehouse directory. I think this is the one. No, not this one. Let me check it out. Hive, I can go to etc hive conf hiveset.xml. Yeah, Hive metastore warehouse dir. Okay, so I can copy this one. Launching Hive once again. Switching to the database I have created. And then checking the parameter, you can see Hive metastore warehouse directory is showing this path. This is nothing but a HDFS directory. So this is the base directory for all Hive databases. Okay. And then if you actually say dfs-ls apps Hive warehouse and hit enter, there will be so many subdirectories with the .db extension. Whatever you see with .db extension represents the database that is created when we actually run create database command. For example, if I say dgadiraju star and hit enter with semicolon, I think the patterns does not work here. As of now, as there is nothing in this, it is not showing up anything. But let me run this command just to show you how the database are represented in HDFS. You can see here. And let me navigate, or let me take you to the database which I have created. See here, dgajraju underscore retail underscore db underscore txt dot db. Okay, so this is how a directory will be created when you run create database command. Okay, now our problem statement also say to create tables, orders, and order items. Okay, for that, first we need to understand how we will get data into this table and what will be the format of the table, and then based on that we have to create the tables. Okay, so in this case, we have uh, our retail db data in the local file system. Okay, I am opening another tab here and connecting to lab again. So we have data in local file system under slash data retail underscore db, and we are talking about orders and order items only. So let's get into the orders and ls-ltr. And if you see data is in arrow format, it should not be in arrow format. Let me see. Yeah, I think I was in the wrong directory earlier. Yeah, so you can see here. So this is the location slash data slash retail underscore db slash orders. Okay, and then you can see a file here. There is one file, and then we need to understand the file format. For that, we have to open the file like this and see how the data look like. You can see these are all alphanumeric characters. So from here, we can figure out that this is nothing but text file format. Okay, a text format. And you can see that there are commas here, which is kind of delimiters. And as part of this certification exam, they will give all these details. What is the file format? What is the delimiter? If the delimiter is applicable based upon the file format. And based upon that, we have to finalize which file format we want to use to store the data. In this case, orders and order items both are text file format, and we want to store this data into this orders and order items tables. And the data is clean, well structured. What we can do is, instead of inserting one record at a time, we can actually load this data into the tables once the tables are created. How the table should be created? We should use this information, such as the data is of type text file format, and also the delimiter is comma. And now we have to get the column names of the data. For that, we have to visit the data model, or they will give the details about what all fields we have in the order and also the data types. Based on that, we have to come up with the create table command. Okay, so we have order ID, date, order customer ID, and order status. 4 fields that needs to be created. Okay, so now I'm going back to the Hive session, and create table command starts with create table. You can give whatever table name you want. In this case, I want to give it as orders. It's same as any traditional SQL based databases. All create table command starts with create table and then table name. and then circular bracket, and then you have to give the column names. Column name is order ID, and the data type is int. There is no need to put any precision here. Even if you put, it's all informational. It will not enforce. So order ID is int, and order date is of type date in orders. But in this case, I just want to represent order date as string. So if you want to define anything in alphanumeric format, you can define it as string. Okay. We can also try date if you want, but we need to make sure the data is represented in the valid date format. Only then it will we should be able to use the data, and the valid date format of Hive and the data which we are trying to load should be in sync. I'm not sure at this time whether they are in sync or not. That's why I'm just using string as the data type. And then order customer ID is integer. So I can just say order customer ID as integer. And then order status is of type string. Okay, now we have defined all the column names. There are no primary keys, indexes, any of those concepts in Hive. Even if they exist, they are only for informational purposes, mostly. Indexes are not very reliable in Hive, and we hardly use indexes. And for certification purposes, you don't need to break your head about those concepts. Just understand how to create simple tables like this. And more importantly, now you have to define the delimiters. Okay, because we are trying to store text data in this table, text data will have delimiters. And the way you can define delimiter is by saying row format delimited fields terminated by, and then you have to give the character using which the fields are terminated. So each row format is delimited by comma. So delimited fields are terminated by comma. That's what it means. It should depend upon how the data is represented in the file. Here it is comma separated, hence we are saying row format delimited fields terminated by comma. And then there is an optional step where you can say stored as text file. Even if you do not specify, it will be stored as text file by default. And then hit enter. Table is created. Now, if you are struggling to memorize the syntax of it, at the time of certification, especially for Hortonworks or Cloudera, they will give you the official documentation. Okay, so you should be familiar with the official documentation. There is no point in memorizing these things and then make a mistake and struggle with that. So Hive language manual is the one which will be given to you as part of the certification. And if you click on this, you can click on this DDL statements, and all you need to understand is this section. Okay, and for now I only explain create table, table name. So if you want to create in a database which you are not currently in, then you can also prefix with the DB name like this, and then you can give the column names. Forget about all these things, and row format, you can see the explanation for row format clause with this name downstream. That's why they say row format, row underscore format, and stored as file format. So first let us see with columns. It says column name, data type. Column name, any standard naming conventions of any traditional databases will work. You don't need to worry too much about it. But when it comes to data types are defined as primitive type, array type, map type, structure type, union type, etc. And primitive types, these are the ones which are considered to be primitive types. We have used int. I'm sorry. We have used int, we have used string, and date is also available. You can even use timestamp. But for our purpose to simplify it, I just use intent string to for orders dataset. Okay, so these are the supported data types, and precisions are not mandatory, whatever data type you use. And then we also use the row format, which started with row format, and then this gives further further explanation. Either you can say delimited or Saturday, serialization, deserialization. You don't need to get that far as of now. You just say delimited, and then you can say fields terminated by for column level delimiters, and also you can use collection items, map keys, etc. for special types. Okay, so that's how it will work. You have to say row format delimited fields terminated by blah blah blah. And then supported file formats are text file, which is default, and sequence file, RC file, ORC, Parquet, raw input format, etc. Okay, so now we have the table created, and I am copy pasting it into text editor so that if I have to make any modifications, I can do that. Okay, now I have to load data into this table. We got the table created. Now if I run show tables, it will list the table. But if I run select star from orders, limit 10, just to preview 10 records. If you are familiar with MySQL, Hive is highly influenced with MySQL syntax and semantics. So you can easily connect to this limit. If you are from Oracle background, we typically use row num. If you are from SQL Server background, you use top 10, etc. Okay, but to preview the data, you can use limit 10 in Hive. Okay, now we have to load the data into this table, and load command will actually start with load data. Okay, let me check the syntax real quick. So we this is about DDL, and if you go back to the homepage of the official documentation, you have DML, and you can click on this one, and we are talking about load. So load can be used whenever data is pre-formatted as per the syntax of your table. So our table says data has to be comma separated and alphanumeric, and that is how our data is. Hence, we can use load command to load the data without any issues. Okay, so here the syntax starts with load data, that is correct, and then local, because we are trying to copy from local path, which is this one, data retail underscore db / orders. Either you can give individual file names, or you can actually um, uh, uh, give the directory like this. It will copy everything under that directory. If you are trying to copy from HDFS location, you just have to remove this local and have to use appropriate HDFS location. Okay, and that's the only difference from syntax perspective for copying data from local file system into Hive table, or HDFS path into Hive table. Okay, and then here you have to say into table name. Either you can say into, or you can also say overwrite into. If you say overwrite into, every time it will delete the existing data and copy the data you are trying to load. If you say just into table, it will just append to the existing directory. It will start creating new files to the existing directory. That's the only difference of using overwrite and into. As this table is completely empty at this time, it doesn't matter whether we use overwrite or not. the behavior would be the same. But if I run twice, thrice, four times, etc., if your requirement is to append to the existing table, you just have to say into table. If your requirement is to remove the existing data and then add the new data into the table, then you say overwrite into table. Okay, so now I'm copying this and hit enter. Data is copied. We can actually see the file level information by using dfs-ls, and as I have explained earlier, it will be in this location in this database, and then there will be a directory for the table also, and the table name is orders. So directory name also will be orders if it is a default managed table, and you can see the data here, or file information here. If you want to just preview the data, you can say select star from orders limit 10. There is also concept of external table where we can actually point directly to the existing HDFS location, but that is not very important for the certification purpose. So now we created the table orders and we loaded data from local file system into this table. Similarly, we will actually create order items. I'm just copying this one. Table name is order items. I want to name it like this. And then for column names, again, we have to go to the data model, order item ID, which is of type int, order item order ID, which is also of type int, and then order item product ID, which is also of type int, and then order item quantity, which is also of type int, and then order item subtotal, which is of type float, order item product price float. So as part of the certification, they might give the column names and data types directly, and based on that, you have to determine the syntax and define the column names and data types. Or they might also give the data models like this. It's up to them how they want to pass on the information to you. So now I'm running this create table command. Table is created, and then I have to copy the data. So when you use load command, you have to be extremely careful because it doesn't check any, it doesn't perform any validation. In this case, if I just modify the table name and forget to modify this, still the command will work. Let me demonstrate you. See here, the command worked. But when I actually try to read the data using the select star from query, you see data is all inconsistent. Okay, the reason why it is showing null here is in orders we have order date here, which is of type string or date, and we have order status, which is again of type string. But here we have integer type for second and fourth column. Okay, so you have to be extremely careful with this. So what I can do is I can just drop table order items and recreate, and then use the correct path. Now the data is loaded. We can say select star from order items limit 10, and you can see the data without any issues. So this is the data which we'll be using for all learning purposes when it comes to Hive queries. Okay.